There was a serial killer who went uncaught for like a decade or maybe even more, and they just recently tracked him down. And here's, according to Schneier, interesting forensics in connection with a serial killer arrest. So here's some notes on how they caught him as it pertains to digital stuff. Investigators went through phone records collected from 2 areas connected to a burner phone that they had tied to the killings. In court, the prosecutors later said that the burner phone was identified via an email account used to solicit and arrange for sexual activity. The victims had all been Craigslist escorts, according to officials. They then narrowed down records collected by cell towers to thousands, then hundreds, and finally down to only a handful of people who could match a suspect in the killings. From there, authorities focused on people who lived in the area of a cell tower and also matched a physical description given by a witness who had seen the suspected killer. In that narrowed pool, they searched for a connection to a green pickup truck that a witness had seen in the suspect driving around. Investigators eventually landed on the suspect, who they say matched a witness's physical description, lived close to the Long Island cell site, and worked near the New York City cell sites that captured the other calls. They also learned that he had often driven a green pickup truck registered to his brother, but they needed more than just the circumstantial evidence. Investigators were able to obtain DNA from an immediate family member and send it to a specialized lab. According to the lab report, the family member was shown to be related to a person who left DNA on a burlap sack containing one of the buried victims. Quick personal note, there's nothing mass surveillance here, really. I mean, like, there is the surveillance collection, but at the end of the day, it was the police doing work, going out and narrowing down suspects and getting warrants and, like, testing things. They didn't just, like, collect all this data and magically hope that a suspect presented itself among the noise and chaos. Investigators were able to obtain DNA from an immediate family member and send it to a specialized lab. Just like with the Golden State Killer, it wasn't like his data was in a database. He doesn't have a criminal record. They found his DNA through a relative, and I think it was actually like a second cousin or something. It was like somebody, it wasn't like an immediate family member, like a brother, sister, mother, father. It was like a cousin or something. The article just really kind of goes into detail about how right now, all these DNA tests, for those of you who don't know and are just joining us, all these DNA tests like Ancestry.com, 23andMe, a lot of them have written in the terms of service that they will share your DNA. And a lot of them are doing it with pharmaceutical agencies. Big Pharma's really trying to get in on the DNA business, because then they can feed that into their supercomputers and they can run. I feel like I sound crazy, but I'm sure our listeners know that I'm not. They can feed it into their computers and they can make algorithms, and they can basically like digitally test out different drugs before they actually start manufacturing them. So it saves a lot of time, saves them a lot of money. It's very valuable data. They can study genetic disorders and other, does your DNA make you prone to this? But they also share it with law enforcement, and law enforcement can access these databases and, run tests and look for leads and stuff like that. Some of these services, I think, are starting to offer you the option to opt out of these, but that's a relatively recent development. Yeah, it's just something you got to be aware of. And also, it's, in my opinion, it's particularly troubling because it's not even you. Like, this guy never submitted, and I mean, for the record, he's a murderer. Screw that guy. He's an alleged murderer. But it's still the fact that it's like they never consented to this. They never submitted their DNA. They never agreed to be in the system. I think I mentioned this before, not to like ramble too much, but my family has done, I think it was Ancestry.com, did the whole DNA test. I never did it, but like my immediate family has done it. So now my DNA is basically in there. And I never consented to that. I never agreed to that. I never signed up for that. And it's really problematic and very gray area. And that's basically what this article talks about. It's just something you guys should be aware of.
I am shocked. Shocked! Well, not that shocked.